Nobody builds something that big underground just for fun. You don't do that unless you have to.
Arthur Zhemuhov was a man who did not get scared easily, but what he found inside Mount Harahora changed him forever. He found a hole in the earth that looked like a giant knife sliced it open. Inside were walls so smooth and straight that nature could never make them. This is the smoking gun that shatters everything history books tell us. It has been missing for years, but this key detail can shock even the smartest experts. Get ready, because what is waiting at the bottom of this abyss is truly terrifying. Abyss beneath the peak. What most people do not realize is that the most famous pyramids on Earth might not be in Egypt. Deep beneath the frozen soil of Russia lies a secret that should not exist. We are talking about a structure so huge and so perfect that it makes the Great Pyramid of Giza look like child's play. But here is the big deal. This place is thousands of years older than any group we know about. Scientists are totally terrified of this spot. It is not because they saw monsters, it is because of what the stones are saying. If this thing was made by hand, then everything we know about our history is a lie. But if it is natural, then the way we study the earth is also a lie. For hundreds of years, the people living in the shadows of these mountains told stories. They did not talk about gold or treasure, they talked about things much older. They spoke of the old ones. They spoke of hidden paths that go for miles and caves that glow with no light. They talked about underground cities built way before history books started. Some stories say whole towns went underground to hide from the Mongol army. Others say these tunnels were not for living at all. They were for something powerful and strange. Most experts thought these were just fairy tales to scare kids. But here is the deal. In the 20th century, people started to think these myths were actually maps. A man named Arthur Zhemuhov was a local cave expert. He did not scare easily and knew these mountains better than anyone. While other people were looking for oil or rocks to sell, Arthur was looking for the truth. He heard whispers about a peak called Mount Harahora. The people said there was a hole up there that breathed. It was a straight hole that did not look like anything nature could make. Arthur even found old papers from World War II. They showed that the Nazis had been there in 1942. We will get to that crazy part later. In 2011, Arthur decided he had to see it. He got his gear and some friends and climbed the dangerous slopes. They were not looking for a bear. They were hunting for a legacy. After searching for days, they found it. It was a small opening hidden by bushes. It was barely big enough for a man to fit through. But the moment Arthur looked inside, he knew it was different. Real caves have rough walls made by water. This one was smooth. It looked like someone sliced the mountain with a giant knife. Arthur stood at the edge of the black hole. He dropped a rock. It took a long time to hit the bottom. The first test said it went down 130 feet. That is as high as a 12-story building. They set up their ropes. This was not a fun climb. It was a trip into the belly of a beast. As they went down, the air got cold, but the walls made them stop. In the light of their lamps, the rock did not look like rock. It looked like building blocks. The walls were flat and straight. Nature does not usually make straight lines. Water and lava make messy shapes. But this hole was a perfect chimney. They squeezed deeper and deeper. The only sound was their own breath. Every few feet, the mystery got bigger. The way the light hit the walls made sharp shadows. It felt like it was planned. After hours, they hit the ground. When they looked up, their jaws dropped. The small hole opened into a giant room. It was huge. The ceiling was 120 feet above them, like a dark stone church buried in the earth. But the size was not the scary part. It was the way it was built. The walls were made of giant blocks. We are talking about stones that weigh over 200 tons, and they were stacked perfectly. The cracks between the stones were so tight you could not fit a piece of paper in them. It looked like a pyramid, but buried in the middle of nowhere. Some blocks stood up like pillars holding the mountain. There were other tunnels, but they were too small for people. They looked like air vents. The team felt a sudden fear. The place was silent. There were no bats or water dripping. It was just cold and perfect. If old people built this, where were their tools? Where was the trash? It was cleaner than a surgery room. Arthur realized he did not just find a cave. He found something that could break history. But as they stood in the dark, a scary thought hit them. If humans did not build this, then who did? While the rocks look strange, the history of this mountain gets even darker. Occult secrets of the SS. You might ask why anyone would build a giant building inside a random mountain. Well, it turns out Arthur was not the only one asking that. 70 years before he went down that hole, the German army was all over these mountains. We know that in 1942, the Nazis started a mission called Operation Edelweiss. The history books say they were there to get oil. They needed fuel for their tanks. That is the normal version. But here is what they do not teach you in school. A man named Heinrich Himmler was the head of the SS. He was obsessed with secret magic and old myths. He ran a group called the Ahnenerbe. Their job was to travel the world to find old tools and lost cities. They wanted to prove their crazy ideas about where they came from. They went to Tibet in the Middle East and the Caucasus Mountains. They were looking for a place called Shambhala. Legends say Shambhala was a hidden kingdom of the gods. It was a place with crazy power and high-tech tools buried in the earth. The Nazis thought if they found it, they would never lose. They thought these mountains were a door to that world, and there is proof they found something near Mount Harahora. People have found Nazi symbols carved into the rocks near the hole. These were not just random drawings, they were specific marks like points on a map. Some thinkers believe the Nazis were looking for this exact hole. They thought it was not just a hole, but a machine or a door. Now, hands down, the craziest idea is that those symbols might not even be from the Nazis. That symbol is an old sign used for thousands of years to mean the sun and energy. If those marks are ancient, it means this spot has been important for a long, long time. But let us look at the facts. The Nazis brought special mining tools to this place. They had teams of scientists mixed with soldiers. They were not just fighting, they were on a treasure hunt. There are stories from local people that the SS were seen carrying heavy boxes out of these caves. Those boxes were guarded by many men. Did they find something? Did they find tools left by the builders? Some people think the Nazis did not really lose the war in the way we think. They believe the Nazis found high-tech tools in places like this. They think they found things that can fly without fuel and took them to secret bases. The presence of that secret group makes the mystery very dark. It shows that powerful people with all the money of a nation thought this place was the key to the universe. And that brings us back to the building itself. When you see how it is made, you see why they liked it. They were looking for a special energy that could power super weapons. Could this hole be an energy maker? The more you look into the Nazi link, the more it scares you. They were not looking for oil, they were looking for the remote control to the planet. The search for old power leads to questions about how these stones were actually moved. Impossible construction of the ancients. Let us go back to the giant room. Close your eyes and see it. Smooth walls and blocks as big as buses. Everything is at a perfect angle. This is where the idea that nature made this falls apart. Scientists will tell you that nature can make some shapes, but those are usually small and repeat the same thing over and over. This hole is different. It looks like an architect drew it. There are parts that look like walls and others that look like pillars, and those tiny side tunnels look like air vents. It has a purpose. People who looked at the photos say it looks just like the inside of the Great Pyramid of Egypt. That pyramid is a masterwork of building. The stones are so close you cannot see where they touch. This hole has that same perfect work. So, here is the huge question. How did they do it? If this place is 10,000 years old, how did they cut the rock? We are talking about very hard stone. To cut it this smooth, you need saws with diamonds or high-power lasers. You cannot do this with old tools made of copper. It is impossible. And then there is the weight. Moving a 200-ton block today needs giant cranes and weeks of planning. Moving it inside a mountain is a nightmare even for us. So if old humans could not do it and nature does not make 90-degree turns, what is left? This is where the wild ideas get popular. Some experts think this hole is an old power plant. They think the mountain works like a wire and the hole catches energy from the earth. Think about it. The Nazis were looking for energy. Could this be a generator left by people who knew about clean power before we even had wheels? Other people say the sound in the room is weird. Sound bounces in there in a way that makes you feel sick or dizzy. It shakes your bones. Was it a weapon? Or was it a way to talk to people far away? The old legends talk about cities under the ground. Maybe this hole is just the air vent for something much deeper. Maybe Arthur only found the entrance. Maybe the floor of that room is not a floor at all, but a door to a maze that goes under the whole mountain range. Imagine tunnels connecting the whole world. This brings us to the idea of a global grid. Some people think all the old sites like Stonehenge and the pyramids are connected. They sit on lines of energy that go around the world. If you put this Russian pyramid on that map, it fits perfectly. It suggests there was one big group that could travel fast and talk to each other. No, the craziest part is what is not there. Usually when you find old ruins, you find trash, broken pots or bones. Humans are messy, we leave a trail, but this hole is totally clean. It is empty. This says it was not a home or a grave. You do not live in a power plant. You build it, turn it on, and leave. This cold and useful design is what feels so weird. It feels alien. Not like space aliens, but alien to our history. It shows a level of logic and big building skill that we do not think old people had. And that is why the science world is afraid to talk about it. Because if they say it is real, they have to admit that someone else was running the world before us. Even with all this proof, the world of science refuses to look at the truth. What do you think about this mystery? Do you think it is a machine or just a weird rock? Tell me your ideas in the comments. And if you like this story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. We have many more secrets to find. Thanks for watching.